Well, Shakur Stevenson, who heralded himself as the next star and the next big guy in the business, stunk out the joint against Rigondeaux Santos. Of course, got the decision, a very close decision, but certainly didn't look impressive doing so. The only history the man made is the lowest punch landed in all of CompuBox history, and that's amongst the two of them. I think they only landed like 30 punches between both of them across whatever number of rounds. So, listen, I said in my preview, I rate De Los Santos, and I wanted to, this would be a test. I said it was his largest test to date. I said that De Los Santos has power. I said De Los Santos, if he lands, it's going to hurt. You got to do something. And we're seeing a pattern with Shakur Stevenson. If it's a guy he's across with that doesn't have any power or is tentative or hesitant and doesn't want to engage, Shakur looks like a world beater, right? But when it's a guy that has power, a guy that is not afraid to throw, and when he lands, he hurts you, seems like Shakur just goes into hesitancy mode and boxes. He threw I call it an excuse after the fight, talking about he didn't feel good and this and that and the other. The bottom line is that you stunk out the joint. And mind you, when you talk about the pomp and circumstance leading into the fight, he's walked in there with Terrence Bud Crawford, who was the unified 147 champion, still undefeated, heralded by some people, not me, the pound for pound king, and then Andre Ward, who, basically retired undefeated. He had unified divisions, won the Super Six. So I'm looking at the pomp on this. They're hyping him, and maybe, and this is a theory, maybe all of this hype and all of this push just got to the dude. But then I step back and I look at when the fight was broadcast. It was broadcast at, I think it was midnight on the East Coast. That's nuts. So either somebody at ESPN is trolling this guy, because Bob Arum came out and said, no, it's ESPN. They control the time slot. We don't have control over that. So either somebody at ESPN was trolling everybody in the boxing community, or maybe they knew what Rolly Romero said on an old interview, which is that basically Shakur is going to put you to sleep if you're outside of the ring. He's not going to do it when you're inside of the ring. And they figured, since you're already going to sleep and this guy's going to put you to sleep, let's just book it at midnight. So to help you go to sleep, and it'll just be a sleep aid because you might have insomnia, and this guy's going to help you go to sleep, and we'll put the time just right so it falls right in line with your clock or when you need to go to bed. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Shakur Stevenson stunk out the damn joint and put everybody to sleep, and everybody was pissed off after the fight. Shakur himself said, well, I wasn't feeling good, deep. Everybody else was like, this guy's hype, he's not the next guy, he's whatever. Tank puts his lights out, etc., and so on. Devin Haney comes out, said, I should have offered this guy 10% of this bum. I offered him too much. This isn't a good look. When you're talking to somebody like Shakur Stevenson, this isn't a silver Olympic medalist, okay? It's not like he's fly by night. It's not like he debuted late. It's not like he's been in the game a long ass time, and for whatever reason, he just did not show up. And whether he didn't feel it right or not, some people talked about his left hand. I think those are excuses. I think what happened, and this is my opinion, is that this guy, the bright lights got to him. He couldn't hang it. And this just says, like Rolly warned people, he's not ready for the big time. He's not ready for the pay-per-view, because if you can't step up against somebody like De Los Santos and showcase what you should showcase, we got some problems here. I'm going to compare, because if you didn't watch the fight, first of all, kudos to you. But if you didn't watch the fight, this was arguably worse than any performance we've seen from Rigondeaux. I'm not exaggerating. Rigondeaux, if you think about when he fought Lomachenko, he barely threw, hardly didn't do anything. Talked about his hand was hurting and all this stuff and didn't have to throw nothing. But in most of the fights prior to Lomachenko, Rigondeaux was sticking out the joint. That's what this was. And then all of a sudden, Rigondeaux takes a loss and then starts stepping up and knocking guys out. Same with Erislandy Lara. All throughout his career, he's stinking out the joint. And then later, after he takes enough losses, he decides to go out there and start acting like a world beater, or enough draws, in his case. Ladies and gentlemen, man, Shakur Stevenson, and if he listens to this, I know he doesn't, but if he listens to this, I'm just going to say this straight up. It's just like O'Shaquie Foster. O'Shaquie Foster did more than you did, bro. O'Shaquie effing Foster did more than you did. This was a disgrace, and it was a disappointment, and it's not just, well, we got the win. No, it's not just getting the win. I said it multiple times, like I said to O'Shaquie, you have to convince the judges that you're better. It's not just about winning. It's convincing the judges that you were that much better than your opponent. And you didn't convince anybody you were better than De Los Santos. You convinced everybody that you were afraid of the man. If I were you, I would run that back and show that you actually can take this guy out in stellar fashion. I know he won't. He won the WBC belt. He's going to move on. At lightweight, I'll say that, though, don't get in the ring with Tank Davis. And I know Tank doesn't campaign at 135. Don't get in the ring with Tank Davis. Please do not do that. Please, you're going to get hurt, and I don't want to see you get hurt because you seem like a decent kid. But after this performance, and this is fresh off this guy telling Crawford to duck Boots Ennis, and then you go in here and perform like that. Did nobody tell you to duck De Los Santos, and that was the problem? Because Maybe that's why you told him to duck Boots Ennis, because you were afraid that Boots Ennis might have done the same shit to Crawford. Shakur, dude, you were hyped, you were heralded as one of these top three with Devin Haney and Tank Davis as the one to take over. Eventually, you guys will fight each other for Floyd's love. Nobody wants to see you in the ring anymore. You shouldn't want that. When you got Rolly effing Romero, who's more exciting in the ring every single night out, and you go out and put a stinker like that, and then you have the gall to talk about you're a better star and you're a bigger star. You're not a bigger star, because this is what I keep saying. As much as people hate Rolly Romero, number one, he can sell a fight. Number two, he will fight his ass off every single time. Broner, he don't fight his ass off. Even Broner doesn't stink it out like you just did. It's at the point now, the dream fight. Shakur, somehow, I don't know how we make the weights work, but let's figure it out. Shakur Stevenson versus Mr. Gary Russell Jr. Let's see who throws the least amount of punches. Shakur Stevenson versus Rigondeaux. Let's see who throws less punches. Shakur Stevenson versus Adrian Broner. Let's see if y'all just stare at each other, shaking your head. We just need to see the most boring ass fight we possibly can, because at least then we can laugh at the both of you as you sit there staring at each other instead of throwing punches. All I'm saying, man, you seem like a nice dude. This was not a good performance, especially given your intro and the pomp and circumstance and the hype and the push around you. And you should be ashamed of your damn self for taking those people's money like you did. And Bob Arum should be ashamed of himself for putting you on that platform to where you can be embarrassed. It's actually good you didn't go to PBC, because PBC, Al Heyman's going to put you in there where you're going to get hurt, because trust me, you do not want any smoke with Tank Davis with performances like that, son, please. If you're going to be this guy, and maybe you're not ready for it, and I would respect you if you said you're not ready for it. Crying effing Garcia did a better performance, even in loss, than you did. Crying Garcia went the distance. Even in the ones he went the distance, he looked better than you did. Like, there's not a single fighter I can think of that was worse than what you did. How can you justify that in a straight face? How can you look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm that guy and I want to be in this? Because maybe this is not for you. I remember when Teofimo was early in his career, he was going out there and throwing it out on the line. What the hell? Like, how can you explain that? You're a young kid. You should have all the energy in the world, and you should be brave and bold. You can't even talk about Floyd Mayweather, because Floyd, even when Floyd turned into Money Mayweather, never put a performance like this, ever. I can't think of a single fight Floyd Mayweather ever had where he was that hesitant, that tentative, throwing that few amount of punches. Even against Manny Pacquiao, he threw more punches than that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Castillo, he threw more punches than that. There's not a single fighter you can name where I can justify that kind of performance that I just saw, except maybe Andre Ward versus Darnell Boone. Maybe Joshua versus Ruiz. Even Joshua did better than you did against effing Ruiz. And Joshua's running too, but at least he was somewhat exciting as he was trying to clinch. Shakur, maybe, just maybe, something was wrong with you. I don't know. Maybe your health was jacked up. I don't know. Maybe you were sick. I don't know. I don't know you, okay? All I'm telling you is performances like that are exactly how you get people never dialing into your fights ever again. So, and then you're hanging out with guys who during their heyday had no problem going to war. Andre Ward went to war at times. He didn't go to war every time, but there were times he went to war. Crawford would go to war. You're hanging out, and then I saw the photo with you, Crawford, Ward, and Floyd. You're dealing with three guys who were literally at the peak in terms of actually trying to fight, and there you are throwing out a stinker. You make yourself look like an idiot, bro. Don't do that, because you're just going to make it worse. Boxing's already dying, and that performance makes it worse. I don't know you. I don't know what your situation was. I'm saying if your mind's not right, maybe you don't take those kind of fights, because you don't put on something like that again. Don't do that again. If you're being matched wrong, you need to speak up, and maybe getting away from Top Rank is a good start. But again, what's left? If you go to PBC, again, Tank's going to take your head off, bro. If you go to the Zone, there's hardly anybody there to fight that's worth a damn. So you're almost stuck there. I'm just saying, don't put a performance like that over again. You're going to have to take risks. You're going to have to go out there and actually entertain the fans and not just dance through the motions like you did.